Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you another The War Within Alpha video about the Unholy and Frost Death Knight. We have got a proper talent rework this time that we're going to take a look at, with loads of both new talents, removed talents, and things like moving around on the trees. So expect a bit longer video. We'll take a look at each of the changes in turn, talk about their impact and how we feel like it's going to play out in the real world, and what we think about it. Overall, I'm quite excited about these. Always fun to see like new changes, figure out, okay, well, what's going to be best now, how's it going to feel like, that kind of thing. So overall, I'm positive, but let's just jump right into it. So to start off, we have class tree changes for a Death Knight, which are quite extensive. You see the new tree here that I got up. It has moved around quite a bit. Specifically, the throughput talents have moved away from the bottom. So previously in the current iteration, all the bottom 6 talents here are DPS throughput that you have to choose from. However, they changed that, so now we only have Abomination Limb, which is DPS, and we have Rune Mastery up here, and we have Death's Echo, which is like an AoE DPS increase. Those are the only ones, so a lot more talents at the bottom, which are now defensive or utility options. And then at the top, you'll see that the like DPS talents, you got Soul Reaper move up here. We have things like where is it? Ice talents like gone up to this point, that kind of thing. That's the general vibe. But just go through all the new talents that we have and talk about what they do and where they end up in the tree. So we first have Subduing Grasp. When you pull an enemy, the damage dealt to you is reduced by 4% for 6 seconds. So that is now over here. Still a 2-point talent. Not a very exciting one. I wonder if this does this work on enemies that can't actually be moved. Let me just check that quickly. Yeah, okay. So essentially, I feel like this is more of a tank talent, because all you can do is obviously you can death grip a mob and it deals less damage to you. Not sure about that, but it's not going to have a big impact on us. We also have Osmosis. Anti-magic shell increases healing received by 15/25%. Located at Unholy bonds at previous location, so it ends up over here. Another nice defensive one. You press AMS, it gives you obviously the magic shield, but that also increases the healing. This essentially means that even in fights where you take pure physical damage, anti-magic shell is going to be a nice defensive CD for you. Quite up with that one. Seems okay-ish strong. Always nice to have like a large number of defensive CDs, so you can kind of spread them out, plan them out in a good way. But yeah, that's a cool one. We have Null Magic. Magic damage taken is reduced by 15%, and the duration of harmful magic effects against you are reduced by 35%. This is really strong, I think. A lot of encounters and with class have lots of magic damage intake, so just 10% reduction that just outright, really good. But also that has duration of harmful magic effects against you by 35% health. So this is going to be like magic dots primarily, but also slows, that kind of thing. Really, really powerful. I think this is potentially a bit overtuned how much defensive value it provides, because it's just going to make us, it's almost half, right? Any dot we take, it's just that, yeah, we take 35% less damage from that overall. So really powerful. We also have this new talent called Vestigial Shell. So casting anti-magic shell grants 2 nearby allies a less anti-magic shell that absorbs up to 50k magic damage and reduces the duration of harmful magic effects against them by 50%. So this is more like, the party defensive. So you press AMS, is going to give 2 other players in your route AMS. I can see this being powerful in Mythic Plus when you need to avoid one-shots. So the Death Knight obviously has AMS to press a lot of the time, but your teammates might not have it, so this could alleviate that issue. But if you compare that to your Null Magic, I don't think we'll ever pick this up. Because, maybe in very niche scenarios, but Null Magic is just really strong. Alright, we also have a new talent, Ice Prison. Chains of Ice now also roosts enemies for 4 seconds, but its cooldown is increased to 12 seconds. So this is available in Gate 1 after Blinding Sleet you got up here. This is not a PvE talent, I think. It looks powerful in PvP. You're going to have rooting people essentially a third of the time. Sounds pretty good to me, but I'm not sure if that's worthwhile when... but how long does Chains of Ice actually last for? It's not a build you press very often as Unholy, so... There you go, 8 seconds. So you can opt out to essentially have 7% slow for 8 seconds, which is going to be 2/3 of the time, and then half of that is going to be a root. So that does look powerful in PvP, but PvE I will never actually pick this up. So let's see. Anti-Meg Shell is now granted baseline. It's quite nice. Do not need to pick that up as talent. Learn that level 14. Same thing with Chains of Ice, also baseline. Sorry, final new talent. We have Rune Protection. The chance to be critical struck is reduced by 3%, and your armor is increased by 3/6% down here. So another defensive that goes in a spot where we previously had a throughput node. I'm not sure how big of an impact this is going to be. So critical struck, I think it only applies to auto attack, which as a DPS Death Knight you don't care about. But this is obviously a tank talent that tanks are going to want to pick up. Alright, so those are the new talents. So you can see all of them are defensive options that are now down here at the bottom. It means that the offensive ones all end up in the top of the tree. We have Soul Reaper up there. We have Unholy Ground over there. We have Icy Talents over there. I think the nicest part of this is that now we have Will of Necropolis that you can pick up without actually getting a DPS throughput loss. Anyway, more talent changes before we dwell too much into the exact vibe here. So, Rune of the Stone Skin Gargle can now be rune forged on one-handed weapons. This is actually a big one. So, Stone Skin Gargle, right? Where is it? Alright. This previously could only be used on a two-handed weapon. And it meant that if you did dual wielding breath, you only had two options. You had Fallen Crusader and you had Hysteria as before. Back in the day, we used Fallen Crusader and Razor Ice, but with Frost now having Razor Ice built into the talents, you didn't pick that up, so you picked up Hysteria. But you can also see here, Rune of Hysteria has been removed. So they needed an alternative to Rune of Hysteria, and it ended up being the Sunskin Gargle. It just gives you some armor stats, so quite a nice one. But it's also going to mean that Breath will see some less variance in how long you can keep it up, which is nice. Rune of Hysteria was actually one of the, I think a lot of people disliked that Runeforge, so it being removed is quite nice. We also have Empowered Rune Weapon has been removed. So obviously you can see that here in the talent tree. There's no Empowered Rune Weapon. Unholy now does not have Empowered Rune Weapon any longer. Instead, it's only Frost that can pick it up in its own talent tree. Has some impact. It means that our 3-minute burst window is going to be slightly weaker because we get less haste and less resources during that burst window. But I don't feel like that was a spell that had that much impact as an Unholy DK, so I don't mind it too much. We also have that Abomination Limb, no longer grants Bone Shield, Runic Corruption, or Rhyme. So that's a legacy from Shadowlands where each DK spec would get some extra benefit from Abomination Limb. That's now been removed, so it's purely deal damage in AoE and pull stuff towards you. Again, I don't mind too much. It did inject some resource into rotation, but didn't really matter in most scenarios, so I see why they changed it, but I didn't have much of an opinion. Alright, we have some more Runeforge update as well. So, Rune of Apocalypse has been updated. So, War Effect now has been buffed from 1% to 4%. Also, duration has increased from 6 seconds to 10 seconds. Pestilence, damage increased by 500%. Let's see, Famine Effect, damage dealt to the castle reduced to 5%. And then Death Effect, healing reduction increased to 5%, was 1%. So, essentially, this was an incredibly undertuned. Let's see, where is it? There we go. This was incredibly undertuned. It has never been up there as a potential pick, but they seem to be actually caring about this and buffing it significantly. I think what they're trying to do is create a bit more choice when it comes to Runeforges. Rune of Fallen Crusader for Unholy has been the staple for as long as I can remember. So they're mixing it up a little bit. Feels a bit nice. Same thing, obviously, as Frost when they removed Hysteria, and then you're now going to run Stone Skin Gargle, most likely. Right, we have Cleaving Strikes. That also retains bonus effects for being within your Deafening K for 4 seconds when leaving its area. So, this is quite a big one. They talked about this previously. Cleaving Strikes, what makes your Scourge Strikes / Claw Shadows cleave, as well as your Obliterates. A big thing people talked about was the need to be constrained to the Deafening K. You put it down, your tank moves out, that feels bad. Now though, if you put it down, you get the buff, but as you move out, it goes on for 4 seconds. You see that? Couple of this has quite a big impact, especially with Frost DK, but also Unholy. So what it means is that Deafening K, the cleave effect, now essentially lasts for 14 seconds. Because as you can see, you pop it down, it lasts for 10 seconds, and then when it is removed, you get that 4-second refresh as if though you moved out from it. So you're going to get 14 seconds of cleave instead of the previous 10 seconds. This is much more impactful for Frost DK because Pillar is 12 seconds. It now means that we can pop down Deafening K before Pillar and then get full cleave throughout the duration. I like that. It's quite intuitive. You see it lots with new players where they put down Deafening K, before Pillar now, even though it's better to go 2 GCDs within Pillar and then pop down Deafening K. Quite intuitive and a bit clunky. So now having the benefit of, you pop down Deafening K, then you pop your Pillar and you go your cleave rotation. Much, much better. I feel a lot of people are still unhappy about this because a lot of the Frost DK cleave still revolves around your Deafening K and then, getting your Blitz cleaves. But I think this is going to be significantly better. You have to run out of some mechanic. Well, you won't lose your cleave effect immediately. You can run back in your Deafening K and refresh it. It's still going to be annoying that, the tank moved out. But the thing is, if you compare to previously, you essentially get half of the old rotation, even though the tank moved out. So, a big benefit increase, and it's just going to be much nicer, much easier to play around. You don't have to deal with it that much. So I'm generally happy about the change. I think this is a good direction. I'm not too sure if I want this to stay this way. Do you want Frost DK to play this Deafening K cleave spec forever? I don't know, but I think this is a big improvement, big improvement. All right, we have Icebind 42 cooldown reduced by 60 seconds. So it's now 2 minutes by default. We previously had this talent where you could talent into 2-minute cooldown instead of 3 minutes, but that has been removed. We have that Veteran on third one of grants 20% stamina, and it's a 1 rank. So instead of having to spend 2 points for that, we can just spend 1. Let's see, we have Icy Talents also moved into a 1-point node. Let's see, there it is. It used to be 2 points to get into the full 6% per stack. Let's see, we have Unholy Bond, same thing there. It's a 1-point node. Used to be 2 point down there, but now we get full benefit for single point. But well, Assimilation has been reworked. Previously, that made it so that the absorb was bigger. But now it actually just reduces the cooldown. I think that's pretty neat because it means that you can talk to your raid and go like, okay, do we need AimZ to be shorter cooldown or not? It's a much more tangible benefit because getting it that more often is much more beneficial than getting extra 10% on the full amount absorbed, in my opinion. Right, we have Suppression. Now grants an additional 6% damage reduction to area of effects when you suffer a lost control effect. Move to gate 3. So, where is that? Oh yeah. So that's an old one where this was one of the really boring points, which is like, oh, you take 3% less damage from area effect, which you never ever picked up. So they buffed that and moved it so you need to pick it up to actually go further down into tree. I think that's the same thing for Blood Scent. That was, I think, 3% leech. So now we get 5%, then you move it down here. We also have that Blood Draw has been changed. It also grants a buff when you proc it, so that the take reduced damage by 10%, and you get essentially really low cost death strikes for 8 seconds. This is quite nice. Like Blood Raw currently is a boring talent, and you know it procs sometimes. You're like, ah, nice. I'm still not sure about this being worthwhile, but they buffing it, adding that extra benefit of taking 10% reduced damage is going to be quite nice. And you're going to have to think a bit more of whether or not you're going to pick this up. But it's going to be much less so, okay, previously we picked it up because essentially we had to path downwards. Now it's going to be like, oh, I want to pick this talent because I value that kind of security. For instance, if you're in a raid fight, you don't take any magic damage and no magic isn't very useful, you might actually path down this way. So, there you go. Also, take lots of physical damage, you get this armor as well, which is, yeah, good benefits. Right, we have an old ground move to gate 1 available after cleaving strikes, so that used to be down here. It's now much further up. Sacrificial Pact is now a choice node with Enfeeble. So we have Enfeeble, Sacrificial Pact down here. I probably will never pick one of these up, to be honest, but it's a potential one. We also have Soul Reaper moved. It's down here. And then we have removed Might of Tessarian. That was just raw damage, I believe. Merciless Strikes was increased crit strike. And then Clenching Grasp was the slow undeafening K. No. Wait, what was Clenching? Let me look that up really quickly. So, I don't think that's the one. Oh, here we go. Death Grip slows enemy movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. Right. Never use that talent because I've obviously played PV, but it going, I don't really care. Now, okay, so that's all the changes. You can see they mixed it up quite a lot. Let's talk about the impact. So how is this going to change how we pick our talents and essentially how we path downwards? I honestly think that this is a general buff to our defensive utility. We are already incredibly defensive, but now we get extra defensive stuff like this null magic is incredibly strong. We also now pick up Will of the Necropolis always because we don't lose anything by pathing that way. I think if you try and figure out, okay, what's a setup I want to run for Mythic Plus, for instance, there actually isn't that much to choose from. So I think yeah, so you end up in a scenario where if you look at this tree, this is the general vibe. We want to pick up Abomination Limb, we want to go into Null Magic. Those two are powerful and good. And then we also have to path down there. And we end up having like Brittle, Improved Death Strike, and Anti-Magic Zone. I think Brittle is a go-to though, because that's a throughput talent. You end up, as we did before, where essentially you need to choose between Improved Death Strike and Anti-Magic Zone as your kind of flow points, in a sense. I think in Raid it's going to be much more flexible because obviously we don't need Binding State in Raid, so you can put that elsewhere. You'll probably go that into Assimilation, and then Unholy Ground isn't needed either, so you can then go improve Death Strike or Blood Scent or somewhere else. So I think overall good changes. Probably not more choice overall, especially Mythic Plus. But I think I like this tree more. The fact that we don't actually need to go spend all out points down here if we don't want to. Abomination Limb isn't even that great for single targets. So in Raid, you can even forsake that one, pick up a Insidious Shield. You might go, well, I want Rework, and I want Improved Death Strike, right? Something like that. So yeah. Need to check, well, we'll see how it's tuned, but you might actually give up a bonus limb and raid when you don't need the grips, and instead path into other areas. I say overall, I'm happy about this. They've obviously they thought about this, thought about the restrictive nature of our points down here, the fact that we had to pick them all up, and essentially said that, well, we're gonna make it more flexible. You don't need to pick up all these points. You can do something else, however you fancy. That's the class tree. Now, let's take a look at the spec tree. The class tree applied for both Frost and Unholy, but the spec tree has only changed for Unholy. And there's quite a lot of things here that are new. So, do the same thing. Let's talk about new talents and talk about the movement door talents and how they impact how we play and what it feels like. So, new talent, Doom Bidding. Consuming sudden doom calls upon a Magus of the Dead to assist you for 8 seconds. Now a choice node with Summon Gargle. Alright, so we got Summon Gargle, we got Doom Bidding. This is really interesting. You'll notice it's a theme. Sudden Doom is going to be a proper proc nowadays. I think this, I haven't thought about this a lot previously, but Sudden Doom currently, it is quite a boring proc. You get it, you're like, yeah, whatever. You know, I have lots of rune power anyway, so getting a free rune power spend isn't that impactful. But, first of all, they changed the proc slightly to now say that your epidemic costs no rune power and critically strikes, right? So when you get this proc and you spend it, it's going to crit both your difficult epidemic, whatever you spend it on. They also reworked how it procs over time. So it used to be this real procs per minute effect. But I have a look at the proc rate. I'm not, 100% sure about this, but I believe it has a killing machine-like behavior. So essentially, whenever you auto attack, you have a probability to get a proc. If you fail to get a proc, you get a higher probability on the next one. And I think as it looks currently, it's 8.5% increasing for every miss you get. So the first time you auto attack after you got on a proc, you get 8.5% to get a new one. The second time it's going to be around 17%, and then the third time it's going to be like 25.5, and so on. This means that it's going to be a bit more consistent in how it procs, which is going to be nice. I'm not too sure why they changed that. I haven't felt like, Sudden Doom has been a bit, iffy with the proc rate. But that is the new behavior. Just wanted to let you know, because that is something else that changed. So, by default, Sudden Doom is powerful because it makes your Defcon epidemic crits. But you can also talent into, getting a Magus every time you consume a Sudden Doom. Really nice. I feel like one issue with the Unholy tree is that essentially if you want to go do AoE damage, you need to talent into diseases. If you want to do single target, you need to talent into pets. This is going to be your way of going, I want to do pets, but I also want to do AoE. Well, here we go. Because not only can you make your Sudden Doom summon Magi, you also have this, Menacing Magus, where your Magi do the Shadow Bolt. This is essentially the current Season 4 tier set. That when you summon Magi, they're going to cleave on the 4 enemies. Really nice addition, I think. Because essentially in AoE, we can now combine these. So, every time you Sudden Doom, summon some Magi, which is going to cleave on all the enemies. And you're going to get this nice feedback loop where you can also buff them up with your Command with the Dead kind of thing. And, yeah. Big fan of that. Anyway. We have more new talents. So we have Race Abomination. Summons an abomination to attack nearby enemies, applying Festering Wound with its melee attacks, and infecting all nearby enemies with Virulent Plague. 90-second cooldowns replaces Army of the Dead. So that's down here now instead of Army of the Damned, which has been removed. We'll talk about that later. This is essentially like an AoE army. You put it down, it's going to dot everything up, apply lots of wounds, and you can explode, and just deal nice big AoE damage. I'm a bit worried about this because this replaces Army. It would have made much more sense if this was a choice node, so you could pick up Army or Race Abomination. My first worry here is that this is not going to do enough single target to be worthwhile, because Army is like our single target cooldown. You're going to replace that with an AoE one, but then obviously you're going to lose lots of single target. I do like it. When we played with this, I can't remember what it was the last time, but you could pick up a PP talent previously where you could summon this guy. It's quite fun. It has some weird AO issues previously, so we'll see exactly how it plays out. But there we go. We can actually have a look at now. What does this guy look like? Let's see. There you go. You got this big guy. He runs around. He attacks enemies, right? Applies the dot, that kind of thing. Yeah, we'll see. Don't have that strong of an opinion about him. All right, we have new talent for foul infections. Your diseases deal 10% more damage and have 5% increased chance to critically strike. That ends up here. It's quite high up in the tree. just some more disease damage and interaction with the talent themselves, but generally just a passive talent. We'll see if that's going to end up being like, oh, we're going to do disease build now. Anyway, that's it. And finally, we have Medicine Magus. Your Mags are dead. We talked about that previously. So those are our new talents. We have Doom Bidding, we have Race Abomination, Medicine Magus, and Foul Infections. You might also notice that we have some under construction talents. So there's 2 of them here in the tree. So I think we can expect some more talents to be implemented soon. At least 2 of them are going to end up in the tree. Now, a couple of more things. So those are new talents. We'll talk about some stuff that's gone baseline. So both Epidemic and Outbreak are now baseline. I like that. Epidemic was a bit of a pain that you had to pick it up to actually deal like AoE damage, but we can always deal AoE damage now. Yes, remember, was this not a thing in Legion? I remember Epidemic used to be a talent, and then it went baseline, and now it went to talent, and now it's baseline again. So it's back where it should be, baseline. We talked about this. Sudden Doom is also now it's moved much closer because he has a 25% chance. I mapped that out, by the way. The 8.5% increase in chance on Miss Proc ends up being exactly 25% on average. So I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but that's just how it is. We have the army is now a 3-minute cooldown by default. Yes, finally. This has been like such a long cooldown for so long, and it's such a pain when you end up in situations where you can't reduce it quickly enough for your 3-minute burst. I'm talking like, Sarkareth and Tindral, 2 fights where he had some downtime, meant that it was really hard and difficult to get army back on track. And not because it was like fun gameplay, it was just like annoying. So that is now a 3-minute cooldown. Lovely. I'm a big fan of that. We have Apocalypse, it's now 45 seconds by default. We have Dark Transformation, 45 seconds by default. We have Vile Contagion, 45 seconds by default. Big improvement to this one. Means that we can pop that with every single seed window. So Rune's back on the menu. Who knows? We'll see. I think this removed a lot of bloat from the tree, because you previously had to talent into army cooldown reduction. You had to talent into Apocalypse cooldown reduction. That was both army down. You had talent into Dark Transformation cooldown reduction, which is a bit, a nuisance. So those talents are now baseline essentially, and we have more choices to make. Another big thing that has changed is that Ember Fever and Bursting Swords is not a choice talent anymore. They're not mutually exclusive. This means that when we do our AE build, it's probably not going to be disease or wounds. It's going to be both, right? It's not like we're going to go, well, we have to pick one over the other. Maybe this one's better in this scenario or whatever. It's going to be, well, we're going to be a big AoE powerhouse that has gotten buffed to use Vile Contagion as well. So that's quite exciting. We'll see exactly how that plays out, but I'm quite happy that we are likely to see wounds being a more central part of our gameplay. In AoE, single target a bit boring, but the fact that we have to pick up Bursting Swords to go into Ember Fever just tells us that we're probably going to run those a lot of the time. Let's see. Festamite now functions like Iron Fur, allowing multiple instances to overlap. So this is a big one. Previously, Festamite had a fixed 20-second duration. So you pop a wound, right? You get Festamite, and that's going to be 20 seconds forever. Even when I apply it again, all my stacks are going to be gone when that buff finishes. However, they changed that. So even though I had one stack that had 10 seconds left, I got a new one. That new one is going to have a full 20-second duration. You can see my first stack is now going to go, and then I'm going to keep the second one. This just means that we don't actually need to pay that much attention to exactly when our Festamite finishes and when we start a new one. We just need to think about, well, okay, I want to do big damage, well, I should focus on bursting my wounds so I can build up a big strength stack that buffs my talents, buff all my other CDs, that kind of thing. Really big improvement. It doesn't take away the gameplay element of thinking about how we stack our Festamite and the benefit of doing that properly. What it does do is remove this really annoying aspect where you're setting an AoE scenario and you're like, okay, my Festamite is 3 seconds left remaining. Well, I should hold off on actually bursting my wounds until that finishes so I can start a new window with a big Festamite stack. That's gone much, much better. They also mentioned this previously. This is no new news, so That's really nice. Let's see, we have Rupture Viscera. It's no longer a choice now with Magus of the Dead. It's up down here. This is, I'm not too sure about this. So if you look at this tree, right? If you want to end up in Death Rot, Festamite, and Holy Salt, which we currently always do, we don't have great pathing to do so. Alright, we can go to Ghoulish Frenzy into Rupture Viscera. Who plays that? That has never been played. Maybe it's fine when it like sits like that, but like we could go down the center path. But that's going to cost us loads of points, right? So we're going to have to go like, you know, Unholy Blight, AoE talent, Bursted Source, AoE talent, Ebon Fever, kind of AoE talent. These are all kind of like both AoE and single target, but primarily AoE. So I think we're going to end up in a scenario where you kind of... that kind of makes sense though. It means that your best single target setup is also going to be quite good AoE setup, which is good. But to some degree, it feels a little bit bad. I'm not sure. Now that I think about it, it's not too bad that you have to go and do some AoE to end up in your best single target setup, because it means when you actually do want to run AoE, well, you're already close to that with your best single target. So on second thought, that's actually good. I like that. All right. Let's see. We talked about Unholy Ebon Fever. Unholy Blight has moved down one bit here. And then we have removed a couple of talents. We have Replenishing Wounds. Think about, all right, I'm going to say these talents. Do you remember what they do? So Replenishing Wounds. What did that do? Oh yeah, there we go. So it means that Festering Wounds, when pop, gave you 5 rune power instead of 3. That actually was such a huge rune power kind of injection into our AoE. But we have far too much rune power then, so removing that's probably going to be a good idea. Let's see, Armor down with no doubt. Unholy Command. That was the Dark Transformation reduction. And then we have Feasting Strike. I thought it said Feasting Strike the first time I read that. I was like, hang on. Are they completely revamping our core rotation? No. Let's see. Feasting Strike. There we go. Feasting Strike has a 50% chance to generate 1 rune and grant runic corruption. Never picked, so I don't mind it going. Okay. So that's it. What are the overall thoughts? I like change. I like the fact that they thought about the tree. These new talents are great. I specifically like Doom Bidding. I like the fact that Sudden Doom is going to be a bigger part of our rotation and going to be an impactful proc. Like, you could just ignore that currently and be, think about it, whatever. But now you have things like Harboring of Doom is going to get nice value, going to feed into Rotten Touch. Doom Bidding is going to be huge whenever you get a Sudden Doom proc to spend that and get your Magi, the Magus. I love it. Time that with Menacing Magus and you get really nice AoE cleave. You still have your old kind of setup where you can pick up, both your Gargle army, the 3-minute Big Cedar window. I'm not sure if we're going to do it like that, maybe. You can now actually go into Call of Dev instead of going without going improved depth goal, which is pretty nice. So a bit more lateral move at the tree. So Agony. Yeah, I think that the tree now has more interesting choices. Like all these talents, most of these talents are like, oh, that's an interesting talent. I might pick that up. Instead of having like Feasting Strike, you're like, I do not care about this at all. So that's an improvement. I think we'll have to see what plays out, see what new talents we get. But overall, a couple of things that I see are positive. We have now Pet scaling into AoE, which is nice. We have Bursting Source and Ebon Fever being maybe to pick up those two at the same time. I like that. We have Magus Cleave, we talked about that. Festamite, now I've given Iron Fur, it was awesome. Yeah, lots of positive aspects here. I'm very excited to see how it plays out in the end. It's always tricky to sit here and go like, alright, this is going to be our new build. This is how we're going to play. This is going to be the best single target. But also, Sudden Doom being now a more important proc is also a really good news. Alright, I think that's enough of my rambling. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this video. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.